Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the Be the Difference podcast. If you are, I got a huge favor to ask. Go on to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review for us. It helps us immensely with algorithms and growth because we grow completely by word of mouth, organically. That's why there are no ads. Also, feel free to share this content with somebody you think might get value out of it. Last, if you don't know, I also do coaching to help people become the best version of themselves, starting with physical fitness, going all the way through mindset, sales, and leadership. If you're interested in learning more, there's going to be a link in the description of the podcast. You can schedule a time. It's a free assessment. All I'm going to do is have a conversation with you and see if I can even help you. I look forward to speaking to all of you. Continue to enjoy the podcast, and remember to always be the difference. What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur, and we bring on guest speakers. Today, I got the honor and pleasure of welcoming a fellow brother in arms, Mr. Jason Skeesick. How are you, sir?
Oh, Greg, I'm so happy to be here, man. The moment, not even a second had passed when we got on this call, and I knew I was going to have a good time talking to you today.
I know.
Love your energy, and I hope to be able to hang with you for your audience here today.
Oh, dude, this is going to be a good one. I was reading your bio ahead of time, and I was like, oh, this guy's dope. This is going to be real exciting. So for those of you that don't know Jason, let me introduce him. Jason Skeesick is a U.S. Army veteran, coach, entrepreneur, and community builder. He's a father, husband, fighter, and carrier of heavy things. He has built several businesses, each with strong teams and tribal communities. His company, Spear and Clover, helps entrepreneurs who have gotten as far as they can by themselves. They have put in hard work, overcome obstacles, and learned to wear all the hats, yet still somehow they can't seem to take it to the next level. He helps them to create foundations and frameworks in their businesses that will allow them to become a dynasty organization capable of producing industry-leading results year after year without reliance on certain managers, role players, or tactics. He leads the Spear and Clover Mastermind, a large group of like-minded entrepreneurs united in helping each other and challenging each other to grow in order to make an impact on the world. You can find Jason hosting the weekly Spear and Clover podcast available on YouTube and across all audio platforms. Highly recommend you guys go check it out. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Greg, that was a mouthful. Thank you so much for honoring me. I appreciate that. And just I'm excited, man. Let's rock and roll.
Let's do this. So Jason, what'd you do in the Army?
I dug holes. I was a network analyst. So my job was as a network engineer was to push a rubberized button on a big green box. And really what it meant was for 1 year for sure, I dug holes in the desert and I pulled cable for miles and miles.
Was that part of Signal Corps?
I was a Signal Corps guy. Yeah, I was a 21 Foxtrot. So that was a network engineer. It was a node center operator.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Did you ever spend any time with Huachuca?
I was never at Huachuca. I was at Fort Gordon for my training as well as for my second duty station, and I was in Kitzingen, Germany, outside of Würzburg in Germany.
And you were lucky. You got Germany?
Oh, I got Germany. You want to hear my Germany story?
I
showed up to Germany having gone through AIT and learned my job. And when I got there, I had heard that like the military, like dialed in, everything's clean, everything's orderly. There's fucking bags everywhere. Everybody's getting ready to go to Iraq tomorrow. Yeah. And so I literally got there the day before everybody shipped out. And shout out to those guys. They went out there in 2005. And I was there on Rear D, like learning German phrases and how to get around town. And then 2 months later, they sent me down after them. And I spent the rest of that deployment with them.
Nice. Yeah. I was never lucky enough to be stationed in Germany. I mean, I went through, you go through Leipzig a lot when you're going on to in the deployments.
What did you do?
I started off, I was a branch detailed officer, started off as an armor officer. And so I was in tanks, which is funny because when I was in college, I was an ROTC graduate. And our senior year, we get the beginning, like the first semester of senior year, we get our branch selection. So we put on all this paperwork when we start our senior year, because we went to LDAC, or Leadership Development Assessment course, which is kind of like our basic training, which really is just like a fucking month-long test of everything you learned in the previous 3 years. And so I put in my packet and I said, hey, I really want to go armor, because I had this awesome experience in LDAC with this armor major that basically was like, he was like, Greg, you got what it takes. He's like, you know how to lead for the front. Cause I did this mission where I was just like, follow me, let's go.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of an ambush. And I was just like sprinting through this ambush and like trying to do a react to contact. So he was like, you ever think about armor? And I was like, not really. He was like, well, armor is like infantry without the suck.
Yeah.
He was like, because we roll up in a fucking tank. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I asked for armor, and I got a branch detailing to MI, so military intelligence. So
that's pretty solid, though.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. So
that's what I wanted. Yeah.
I did 4 years. I did 4 years as an armor officer until I hit captain. And then when I hit captain, I just spent another year in armor because I was already deployed at the time. And then I went to Huachuca and I did my career course. And then while I was there, dude, most of the people I was there with, I hope they're not watching. They were like, it was such a different world. Like I was used to be in the combat arms world, and we're all just like we were a bunch of grunts, bro, just like chugging beers and like slamming beer cans on our heads, being idiots, you know. And so I get to at the time I was married, me and my ex-wife, we get to Huachuca and we have our first outing, and everybody, and like I was like, dude, I'm gonna bring I brought like a handle of Jack, and I got all this beer and stuff, and I'm like, we're gonna freaking we're gonna party, you know what I'm saying? And they're all like, oh, we can't drink. We brought some wine coolers, and I was like, wine coolers? Who the fuck? Like what? There's all these MI officers. I was like, these are some fucking man.
Yeah.
So I was in this class. They're mostly MI. It was almost all MI. I was like one of the very few branch detail officers. And so I was very competitive, and I scored in like the top 5% of the class. And at the graduation, we got special assignments, and my special assignment is they had just started what's called the 35 Fox program for officers. Yeah, which was they sent you to go get certified to run clandestine operations for human intelligence.
Wow!
And so I got.
What year was that?
This was in 2010.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Cool.
So I went and did that. I got certified as an interrogator, and then I got certified to do joint human operations. So on the joint level, so I could work with all services and all agencies. Wow. So I ended up staying in Huachuca for a year to do extra training on get my human training. And then everything after that, I did humans operations. So I ran a interrogation facility in Afghanistan, which was fucking cool.
Wild. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I got to run sources in Afghanistan. I was in plain clothes. I got to grow a beard for a while.
Dude, that's epic, man. That's a really cool career.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun, man. I had a lot of fun. So
I was a ROTC guy before I went in. And then I was like, I'm not going to join the army. So I quit. And then I went in as a fucking PFC.
yeah, dude, man, ROTC was a good time. I only reason I went is because I got a scholarship. So last minute, like I was a terrible high school student. Terrible. I think I graduated with a 2.75.
Not bad. That's not terrible.
It's pretty bad.
Better than terrible. That's good enough that you know you could have done better.
I could have done better. Yeah. But I scored the lowest possible score that makes you eligible for a scholarship. Wow. So I scored right at the lowest level, and so that put me in the running. And I had done JROTC all 4 years of high school, and I came from a military family, so I was like, you know what, I want to serve. And 9/11 was my senior year of high school, and so I was like, I want to serve. I want to go to war. So I applied for an ROTC scholarship, and I happened to get it. I think I got accepted during the summer between my senior year and my freshman year of college. Wow. And that's when I got accepted. And I was like, fuck yeah, school's paid for. So yeah, those good times.
Wow. Interesting, man. So cool.
So you went you did your time in the military. What did you do afterwards? Like, how did you become an entrepreneur? Tell me through that journey.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think so for starters, I've always been an entrepreneur, but I don't think I ever knew it. And what I mean by that is my whole young life, I would get really interested, like really in the weeds about the things that I cared about, right? ADD. I got into cars. I worked at the shop. I got into clothes and fashion. I worked in the mall. I got into snowboarding. I worked at the snowboarding hill. And I didn't put it together that I was seeking out doing this stuff that I was super passionate about and would go very deep on. And so I thought, all right, let's go to the military. We'll find some purpose. We'll find some discipline. And when I got out, I did two things. One is what I would call is like one of my core values. And then the other is the other one. I went to school for finance to become a banker because I was thinking, all right, I've learned discipline. I'm a smart guy. I can go become a banker and make a bunch of money on Wall Street or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing I did was on a lark because I was super into fitness coming out of the military. My two friends asked me if I wanted to open a CrossFit gym. And I was like, yes. Like he literally asked me on the way home from a trip. He was like, hey, you want to start a CrossFit gym? And I was like, yes, just immediately. And so for several years, I was serving two masters.
Stick in the dirt. Yes.
Yeah. Right. So for several years, I was serving two masters. I was, sitting on the top of a tower in downtown Chicago and working on, 10, 50, $100 million deals. And all I could think about was this small tribal community that we were building in a dusty fourth floor of an old, almost empty warehouse in, kind of an industrial area of Chicago. And so I just didn't quite yet put it together that I should pursue my passion professionally, and that I, in fact, could make far more money doing that than I could working for somebody else and giving them this like mediocre kind of phoned in results. And so that's how I got into being an entrepreneur. Obviously,
did you ever, as a kid, did you ever have that bug where you're like trying to sell stuff or like lemonade stand or shit like that?
You know what? It didn't feel like it at the time, but if I look back, I have all of the textbook stuff. So my very first job, I was probably 12 or 13, and I'm selling newspaper subscriptions door to door in this like real scumbags, van. He's like dropping me off in like apartment areas and like teaching us to like lie to people to get them to sign up for these, Chicago Tribune memberships. We were making good money. We'd make like $15 a sale. We were doing like 20 sales a night. But it's like freezing in Chicago and there's like 30 kids like Oliver Twist, just like running through the apartment buildings and like knocking on doors. I worked at Kirby Vacuum for a little while. I did.
Dude, I had a Kirby, bro.
Yeah.
Kirby's great. By one of those people.
Yeah. Those are great. But it's a special kind of training, right? You talk about basic training, try running through apartment buildings and knocking on people's random doors, or try
holding a Kirby vacuum and being like, hey,
like sucking up all the dirt on some poor lady's floor or whatever when she's got her kid asleep. And I also sold car wash, detail packages and stuff. Again, very much like lots of at bats, lots of energy. And I didn't have any passion connected with those jobs that I did, but I did pretty well in them. And they taught me a little bit about listening to people and about kind of connecting the dots and solving problems in real time. But really it was the military and then entrepreneurship at a small level that taught me how to really like run towards the obstacles and the struggles so that I can help to solve them faster.
Absolutely. So so I realized that I was not going to be good in a regular setting because every job that I had, I fucking hated. And I would just quit. I would just be like, dude, this isn't for me.
Did you tell them or did you just not show up?
No, I would tell them.
I would not show up. A couple of jobs, I just didn't show up anymore.
My very first job that I was hired was at a job called Synergy, I think. But it was at the C. It's like a CY. And I showed up and I was a phone operator and I got paid $6 an hour and calls would come in and I would take it and I would be like, hey, what's your problem today? And depending upon the problem, I had 4 problem sets. And then I would pick that problem set and it would be a different product. And I would walk through literally on this computer. Did you try this? Did you try this? And people would just be crazy. I did that literally for 2 days. And I was like, fuck, this is for the birds. And I was 16 years old. I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing it. I went to the boss. I was like, I'm not doing this. I can't. I'm going to blow my brains out. They're like, no, it's good. And I was like, no, I would rather take icicles and stuff, shove them in my eyeballs. That's not happening.
Yeah, my quickest, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My quickest was I went to go, it was one of these jobs it was like Greenpeace, which I didn't know what that meant really. Greenpeace, and it was like $25 an hour. And I show up to the place, it was downtown Chicago. I lived in the suburbs and they wanted us to ride on the L really far out and just stand on the street and get people to sign up and give and donate money towards whatever cause is. And I literally got off at the first stop and was like, hey guys, I'm out. I'm not doing any of this. And the doors close and they're like, wait a second, what? And like the train just takes off and I'm like, I'm out. I can't do this. This is not for me.
Yeah. When I was in high school, this was back in the day with dial-up internet. So just to date myself. So we had dial-up internet and it was big. I mean, that was the big thing. Right. And my dad was big into getting new computers, stuff like that all the time. Like he's big in technology. So he happened to get a printer which had a scanner. It was like the first time we'd ever seen a scanner, right? And so I found out I started playing with Scanner, and I don't know how I connected the pieces, but I started playing around with documents and seeing that I could actually like alter documents. And so I had the idea that I can actually help students by altering their report cards and changing the grades, and they would pay me. Now, here's the thing: is that once they do it once, they're stuck because they have to do it every single 6 weeks in order to make sure that it's always the same.
Yeah.
Because every 6 weeks it would show all the previous grades.
Sounds like an
And
MI guy to me.
dude, and then I was like telling him like, hey, if you tell your friend about it, whatever they pay, I'll give you a piece of it. Like I'll give you a couple dollars off the top. So anyone that you send to me. And before you knew it, I had like friggin' like 30, 40 kids that I was going through, and just like every 6 weeks, as soon as they get the report card, they'd send to me. I'd scan all of them, I'd change all of them, I'd give them back, I'd print them and give them back.
Wow.
And yeah, my mom found out. I never changed my grade because I didn't give a shit. Because I just didn't care. And I was like, I'm not getting caught. I was a drug dealer that didn't do his own drugs, you know?
Yeah. Fascinating.
And so she caught me at the end of the year. I'm the last one because I had so many report cards, and she was like, what are all these fucking report cards?
That's funny.
I was like, well,
yeah.
So, and then and when I was in college, I was an art major, and so I liked art. And somebody had come up to me and asked me to buy a piece of art, and I was like, yeah, I guess. And I was actually competitive. I was actually really good. I used to compete with art. And somebody else came up to me and was like, hey, can you teach kids? I was like, I can teach a monkey to draw. So before you knew it, I started with one kid, and then I talked to the school and they let me use the art studio. So I would do like 2 nights a week, an hour of coaching. And then before you know, I had like 10 kids in this class. I was just teaching them how to draw, like the basics of drawing.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple of semesters as well. So I also think that entrepreneurs, they should do serving, like become a server.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I think entrepreneurs, I always tell people, I think entrepreneurs are people who see the world as it could be, and they can't help but take action. And so if you strip away the money part of it and you just let people serve, entrepreneurs, you still get that dopamine hit of solving problems and giving. Because I think what it comes down to is you find something that changes your life for the better, and then you want to give it to those other people. Now, of course, we want to make more money doing that, and we justifiably so. But I agree with you strongly, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I was a server and a bartender, and that actually taught me to get out of my skin and have to work for tips and like learn how to communicate, learn how to listen to people, connect with people, build rapport in a very short time frame, make them like me enough to where they're like, here's extra, like you did awesome, and like give me like 15 or 20 or 25% tip or something like that. Instead of just a 10%, right?
Oh, that's great.
So that's the dude. That's awesome. So you started as a CrossFit, or your first kind of entrepreneurial venture was CrossFit. How did that transform into multiple businesses?
Well, when I got back from the Army, I would say my first LLC was CrossFit, but I was like flipping high-end bikes, like bicycles and MacBooks, things that I was interested in. I was like buying them, fixing them, getting them cleaned up. I knew their value. I was playing a market basically through Craigslist, and so I was making pretty good money doing that, actually. But then when we started doing CrossFit, it's a no-brainer. I love the hang. I was always, great in sports and team environments, the military, no different, if not more so. And so very much, I just want to help you with this thing that helped me. But we didn't make a real business of it until several years in. There came a night, and this is one of those moments where it's like the biggest struggle that I've seen through, right? And so there came a night where my two partners were about 7 years in. We're making a couple bucks, but not a lot. We all have jobs. And my buddies came to me and they were like, hey, man, we found women. We have other careers that we want to pursue. It's time. It's time to put a bullet in this thing and let it die. And at the time, we have about 100 members. There's literally babies that are walking around because their parents met in our facility. And I just was like, all right, let me take a night. So I took a night. If I can wake up tomorrow and see a world where this place doesn't exist, I'm in. And the next day, I offered to buy them out for money that I didn't have, which I believe just paid off recently. And I just took it on my shoulders. And I said, listen, I want you guys to keep 10% each, because this is this thing we built together. But I want to make this a thing. I can't let these guys down, this community, right? And so what did I do? We're making $8,000 a month of revenue in a city where we had $4,000 rent, at least I think at the time. And so I hired somebody for $12,000 that I couldn't afford. And I paid that off early using what I learned from that mentorship. And so that guy's name was Alex Hormozy. I was a very early client of his, and he's now become
Gym Launch.
He'll now be the next generation's Gary Vee, right? Like he's a big deal now. But I was one of his first clients. And so I got a ton of time working directly with him, learning as he was learning how to scale what he was doing. And very quickly we became one of the leaders in that community. And so he tapped me on the shoulder to become a coach for him, and to help to those people with a little more one-on-one time. And I've never coached a CrossFit class and had less energy at the end of it. I've never had a call with an entrepreneur and had less energy after that. And so I just knew right away that, the journey typically goes, something changes your life, you find fitness or whatever. So then you become a coach of it. You teach people how to be fit. And then if you do that well enough, you become a gym owner, right? And then at a certain point, to scale that impact further, you coach other gym owners. Well, that's where I got. And then I realized that everything I was talking about had nothing to do with what you do in a class, and it had nothing to do with weight loss. It had to do with, hey, do you have a way to go out and acquire new clients through marketing? Do you understand how to nurture those people that you identify as leads to be excited to show up for a sales engagement? And when they're in a sales appointment, do you know how to get out of your own way and lead them to the thing that they actually need, right? Which is your services. And then how do we scale that? How do we put in place systems? How do we find and acquire new talent for our staff? How do we make sure that everybody's getting the best possible experiences they can, and that we're counting the money the right way, and making sure that we're getting what we need for our business. And so when I realized that, I was like, okay, well, I don't need to be just working in fitness. This is a message that can go to all sorts of different people to help people in different ways. And so I sold 2 businesses in 2 years, a coaching business for gym owners, and a coach and my gym I sold to a person when we moved. Shout out to Andrew. He's crushing it out there in Chicago still. I took a year off because we had a baby daughter, Lucy, who is now going to be 2. And over that year, I just paid attention to where my interest was. And my interest was in like 3 or 4 things. I was spending hours a day with her and my wife, Donna. I was spending hours a day doing jujitsu and kickboxing. And I was spending hours a day on phone calls with entrepreneurs for nothing, just to hang out, just to talk to people, help them through problems, I don't like the word networking, but to build relationships with other similar entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I started a podcast in support of that, called the Spear and Clover Podcast, which I have enjoyed every moment of. And then when I launched a new business, it was a no-brainer. I'm going to teach people to do the things that I love. I'm going to teach them to understand their true core values. I'm going to teach them to understand why their business is special. What is their mission, and how to take those foundations and put them and to create a capital B business where they don't have to be putting out fires all day long, where they don't have to wear every single hat, where they can finally create space to give a great result to their client, and a system to have somebody else help them to do it. And I've just loved the journey every step of the way. And you know what, Greg? We're not fucking good enough yet, and we're going to be even better. So like we're committed to just becoming totally undeniable. And I've just had such a blast in that journey so far.
Dude, I love everything that you're talking about. I'm fucking digging your energy right now.
Oh, thanks, man. Dude, if it's not clear by now, we're broing down. This is like a bro fest if I've ever felt one in my life, man.
Well, we definitely are. For those of you that listen to that, one thing I want to highlight is Alex Hormozy. He has 2 books that are amazing, is Gym Launch Secrets, and then also $100 Million Offers. I've read both of them. They're fantastic. They're really good when it comes to like, even though you're thinking, well, I don't own a gym, take that out of your mind, like release that. And you can honestly like learn from the way that he creates an undeniable offer, how he does the pitch and all that. And you can apply it to your business and your industry. Especially with Gym Launch Secrets. It's actually a pretty phenomenal book. And it's written very plainly.
That's how he is. Yeah.
Very plainly. He also has a podcast called The Game, where he's documenting his journey and everything that he's learned. It's a great podcast. I like the way that he speaks. It's like, I can tell is like, dude, he has a brilliant mind, because the concepts he talks about, but he breaks it down so simply. He's like, hey, this is how I see it. Like, this is how it like works in my mind. Yeah. And it's like, dude, he's talking about some very high level concepts, but he breaks them down very simply. I've recommended that podcast to a lot of different people, and everyone's like, dude, this guy's brilliant. I'm like, I know. Like I just want to go hang out with him one day and just be like, "What's up, bro?"
He's a generational talent, and I have hung out with him a lot. And I can tell you for sure that the thing that I'm inspired by, I have a couple of mentors that are very successful. He's definitely one of them. I have another friend who has a 9-figure business and is not particularly famous, and then I have another mentor who is equally successful as Alex. And all three of them have their own superpower. The one superpower that I really took away from Alex is really two things. One, he does not get attached to his own ideas. He gets attached to the best idea. And so there were times, especially early on, where you would get on a call, and I try to do this now. You get on a call with him and you'd be like, "Hey, I got this idea. What do you think of it?" And you'd be like, "I don't know about this." And you're like, "Yeah, you're right. Fuck that. What about this?" And like he would just he had no personal attachment to what he was doing. All he cared about was getting the right thing that would deliver unbelievable value to somebody. And this was before $100 million offers and before those things had been codified. And so what I've taken away from that is it's so difficult to be creative and special and feel like you have good ideas and have skill. And that is true. And then go like, but they don't understand it that way. So I need to figure it out until they do. To understand that no matter what the no is for, the no is right. When you're talking to somebody and they say, "I don't get it, you're confusing me," or "No," you can't say you're wrong. Yeah. So by definition, they're right. And so it's not their job to get you. It's your job to be understood. I learned that from him, and I continue to try and polish that blade every day in my business.
Yeah, he definitely, and he talks about that a lot in his podcast. I listen to it religiously now. I don't even know how I found the podcast. I want to say it was through Andy Frisella.
Probably.
I think he mentioned it on one, and he was actually on this show recently.
Yeah.
If you're not listening to podcasts, you're an entrepreneur, not listening to podcasts. Like I do a lot of my learning and applying. They're sharing all the secrets. Like it's all the same stuff. That the only difference with coaching is now you paid to be accountable, to be honest. Like, but they're sharing a lot of the same stuff that they would do if you're a coach. And it's just now you're like, you get FaceTime with them. Right. And I only know this because I do coaching also, and because I've paid for a lot of coaching. And then when I go back and I look, I'm like, dude, all this was said before in all these podcasts, blah, blah, blah. It's just like,
I'll do one better for you, man. Everybody's been telling you everything you should be doing since you were a freaking kid, genuinely. And the further I get, the more successful I've been, or even just the older I get and more experience I have, the more it does come back to like, honesty is the best policy. Great. Or like, people don't buy features, they buy benefit. Like, there's just so many things that I've known that people told me in Winnie the Pooh cartoons when I was a kid. And like, I'm watching now Mickey Mouse with my daughter going, this is unbelievable storytelling. This is unbelievable, clear, simple storytelling that's easy to understand. I think smart people so often think they need to be NASA, when if they were really smart, they'd be McDonald's.
Yes. No, that's a good way to put it. I always tell agents, sales agents or anyone I'm coaching, I'm like, dude, stop trying to recreate the wheel and be like, well, I'm just going to do it this way. And that's what, even with coaching, I'm in this coaching group and there's always people on the call. Like we do like a group coaching call. Right. And the guys will be like, hey, the coach will be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what I want you to do. Boom, boom, boom. And then I'll be like, hey, let's go through Q&A. And guy will be like, yeah, I know you said this, but I really want to implement this. It's just like, dude, run the damn play, bro.
Yeah.
He called the play, run the play. If you were going to do it your way, you wouldn't be in this coaching group. You'd already be successful, right? Just run the fucking play, bro.
Yeah. And on top of that, I think the other thing that we get is it goes back to what I was saying earlier, but we get precious with this idea when the truth is just test them. Just run a test, spend $100 on ads and see if it works. And if it doesn't, spend $100 on the other idea or A/B test them or whatever. So few people, like if I were to try to walk you through how I launch ad campaigns, it's like 5 headlines, 5 body copies, 5 pieces of creative, 5 of this. And then it's whatever that fractals out to number of ads.
And you also put it in each audience. So like you have like 5 different audiences and you're doing
25 different audiences. Yeah.
So you're doing it across all audiences to see what audience hits the best. Maybe you have one audience that hits with one ad copy and one image. No, believe me. Yeah. I completely track that.
Yeah.
It blows some people's minds. They're like, you do all that? I'm like, Yeah.
And it's actually not hard. It's a little tiny bit of discipline and just starting, like it's as simple as like a naming convention, right? To know exactly what you're looking at, and then just to kill losers and duplicate winners. I don't want to get in the weeds on like ads marketing, but it's really just as simple as if you measure it, you can move it. And so few people are even willing to measure it. But I can ask them what their bench press is, and I can ask them, what they run the mile in, and what their body fat is, and they all know those things. They know what the money in their bank account is, but they don't know what their cost to acquire a new client is. They don't know how many phone calls they have to make between sales. They don't know the cash collection cycle on how long it takes from somebody to become a lead to becoming a client. They don't know the lifetime value of a client. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah. Not running a business, that's for sure.
Well, and not to throw stones. If you're listening to this and you love doing one thing, my intuition is it's probably sales. If you're listening to this and you love making sales and getting paid for it, just keep a job. Because being an entrepreneur means that you have to understand a much broader swath of stuff, and sales is a big part of it. But you can make a lot more money in a profession if you don't want to own a business, because owning a business with a capital B has a lot more requirements. There's a lot more things that you have to understand and questions you have to answer. And so,
absolutely true.
Yeah, you can just be a great professional. You want to change oil every day, just be the world's greatest oil changer. You want to own Lube Pros, you need to understand marketing, you need to understand conversion, you need to understand systems, payroll, all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your coaching group, let's talk about that. Dig into your Spear and Clover. How'd you come up with that name?
Great question. Two things. My core values were a big pivot point. Around the same time I told you the story of me turning my business around, I read Traction, and I went through like a real redo of my personal core values, my beliefs, my mission, and have never looked back. So core values are really big for me. And the two that describe me as who I am are military mindset, which I acquired by joining the United States Army. It's discipline, hard work, never leave anybody behind, right? The other one I was born with, it's called Spirit of the Puppy. And so this could be described as ADD. It's like high energy, loves to, try new things, very positive, overwhelmingly, happy, and loves to, be curious and creative. And those two things together kind of make me who I am. And it was a couple of years ago, before I ever thought of naming a business where I go on ruck marches every single week with my dogs. I have 2 Australian Shepherds. We go through the Indiana dunes, and I'm doing 11 miles. I got a 40-pound pack on my back, and I got a 40-pound log on my shoulder, and I'm hoofing. I'm military mindset, pursuing my goal, right? And the dogs, they're running out into the woods, and then they come back and check on me. Then they're running out into the woods, and they come back and check on me. They're having the time of their life. And so it occurred to me in that instant that at my best, I'm not just Spirit of the Puppy, and I'm not just laser-focused military mindset on achieving this difficult goal. I'm sort of going through life with that combination and that balance of those two things. And so the Spear and Clover is a symbol that I created that day, and it describes literally me. There's drone shots now of me rucking through the dunes, and the dogs like hoofing it out into the woods and playing around and having
the four points. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
And so that's what it's all about. The course that I take folks through is called Dynasty Defined, and what that really evokes is nobody wants to talk about core values. Nobody wants to talk about like the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually true. And
that's true.
That's something that every business needs.
But what we do know? What we do talk about is dynasties. We talk about the 90s Bulls. We talk about the All Blacks from New Zealand. We talk about the Yankees. We talk about the early 90s Dallas Cowboys. Those dynasties were able to produce unbelievable results year after year without reliance on one specific player. You could argue some of those, but and so to me, those dynasties are built on foundations that are more than a player, a playbook, or a coach. It's the organization. It's what that stood for, and then the frameworks that they use to scale that upward. You see somebody like Randy Moss or Chad Ochocinco, who's a problem in the locker room, but when he joins New England, he's assimilated into the program. You never hear about problems from him again. And so the idea is trying to make people understand that they can build their own dynasty organizations where they're not the only magician that has to wear all the hats if they want anything good to happen in their business.
It's fantastic.
Thanks,
love
buddy.
this. Man, I could sit here and talk about just business, Alex Hormozi, military all damn day.
We could do that all day, buddy.
I know we could.
Yeah.
With your podcast, what's like the topics? What do you do for your podcast, and why should people want to come listen to it?
They probably won't. If you like conversations like this one, this is what the conversation is like. What I will tell you is my podcast is not tactical. It's not my free Facebook group. I have a Facebook group called Dynasty Builders, and I'm live in there every single day. You're more than welcome to join that. It's called Dynasty Builders. And that's where I break things down literally on a whiteboard. I'm putting things out, concepts that are very accessible and you can plug and play in your business today. You also get a free AI course when you join that group. But if you want to hear conversations like this is me personally loving speaking to entrepreneurs and hearing their stories. And so this is it's a long form podcast. I'm talking to them about why they want to be entrepreneurs. Why do they want to make an impact on the world? What are the things that they've learned along the ways? But genuinely, it's probably never going to be a huge podcast, and that's okay. I love doing it. I grew up on talk radio. I started listening to podcasts in like 2008, and I've been loving every minute of creating my own. So, if you're into that type of thing, if you like this kind of vibe, this is very much like what mine is like. But inside the group is where you're going to see a lot of the free tactical information and stuff.
I like the conversational stuff too.
Me too. And I listen to 4 hours of Rogan on a regular basis, so I'm here for it. But it's definitely not the 20 minutes top 10 ways to make $1 million type podcast.
Oh yeah, no. I think like you can have a really good conversation and then you can drop in little tiny nuggets of information that like it's like, oh, I never thought about that. I can apply that, maybe just tweak and like add this lever to my business and see a change. And then when I see that change, I can really crank down the lever and maybe make a lot more money.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they could have took something away from like specifically with stuff that you were talking about.
I could do one now if you want.
Yep. I think you've already have done it.
All right, I'll do one real quick.
I'll do another one.
If you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur or a salesman, you're probably talking about features. And so the reason we do that is because all we do is we spend our time thinking about what features we can deliver for our customers. And so if you get to the end of sales calls and somebody is telling you, wow, it sounds like you're really great at what you do, I don't need it, but if I see anybody that needs it, I'll be sure to point them in your right direction. What that means is they think you're smart, but you confuse them because you're talking about features and nobody buys features. And so what I would encourage you to do is start to talk from the perspective of the client to you, because they're walking around hoping somebody will tell them this thing, this benefit that will solve their problem. And so start to speak in benefit-rich language, and you will immediately see doors open for you and you'll make more sales.
Oh, absolutely. And there's actually, I was actually one of the things that you can do when it comes to this specifically is this is part of your pitch, right? When you get to your pitch, if your pitch is, hey, like, okay, so sales conversation, you find out where the client's at, right? This is their current destination or their current location. You find out where they want to go. You find it, and then the distance between there, that's the gap, that's the problem that they have. So then you're like, okay, I understand you. So you are your product is the bridge between where they're at to where they want to go. So now you're like, okay, understand you, I got it. Hey, this is how this works. And now you start to go into your pitch or your close, and that's where you're right. People start talking about the benefits, and they talk too much. Instead, what you want to do is you want to have it where you break it down kind of like in phases. So it's like, hey, so this is where you're at. This is what you're looking for. And what you can do is say, hey, this is how we do it, and talk in very plain language. So what we're going to do is we're going to put you on a 4-phase plan. Okay. And the first phase is going to be, we're going to calibrate your nutrition. The second phase is that we're going to get you on a consistent and disciplined schedule. Third phase is going to be that we're going to unlock your potential. And the fourth phase is that you're going to be in God mode. Right. So now, boom. So you write those 4 down. Right. And so then you break down each one and you talk about each phase, what it actually like, how you do, and then the benefit it's going to do for them. Like, hey, for this phase, part of calibrating your diet, what most people do and why they are inconsistent is because they don't actually do a tailored to plan for your specific diet. And if you look online, you can find 10 different ways to calculate your macros. Most of them are wrong. So what we're going to do is we're actually tell you your macros appropriately, and what that's going to do is going to help you get your diet on a check, and then that's going to allow you to lose the weight you're looking to lose. This is called a benefit stacking. So you benefit off of benefit.
Yep. So it's feature, benefit of the benefit. Yeah, totally.
So then you're like, and that's it. So that's, and then you're like, hey, does that make sense? Yep. Hey, do you have any questions about that specifically? Right. So I took time. I didn't confuse them. I didn't talk about a lot. Phase 1. Hey, phase 2 is that we're going to get you consistent and disciplined schedule with your workouts. Boom. And so now I'm going to go over that. This is feature, benefit versus benefit of benefit. Do you have any questions on this? Right.
Yeah.
And you do this with every single, and what you want to do really is you want to make sure that you front load or you want to highlight the pillars that, and maybe one or two pillars that really are their problem set more. And you really highlight those and they're like, hey, sure you don't have any questions? When you go through your pillars, see, I haven't even talked about price or offer or structure. It's just like a really kind of normalized, broken down in little pieces, all the way down to the end. Say, okay, now that they know how we structure it, let me tell you how this program's actually going to work. Now I can talk about, it's like, hey, you got no questions. You understand it. Is this all good with you? Does this make sense? Yes. Okay. So this is how the structure is going to work. Hey, when you start, we're going to put you on this plan. I'm going to give you some homework. You're going to have to do this. Once you get that done, I'm going to do this. You do this, then I do this. X, Y, Z. Right. And what that does is they're putting themselves in the mindset of actually doing this now. They understand that this is going to be steps to do, all the way through to what the offer actually is and it looks like. If you do this appropriately, the money that they have to, the investment that they have to do for your product or service is going to be nothing, because they're following along with you all the way. They're like, yeah. Because you're basically saying, I'm going to solve this problem. I solve this problem. This is why my service is why you need it and why it's different from everyone else and why you've tried others and they have not worked.
I'm ready to sign up for a nutrition coaching program.
So I'm telling you, man, this shit works. So, and a lot of this I learned from Jim launching $100 million offers.
Yeah. Maybe a little Cole Gordon in there.
A little bit Cole Gordon. Yeah.
Got it.
So, it's just like there's ways to do this, and when it comes to sales, and that if you apply these things, I don't care what industry you're in, you can be literally in any industry. Insurance, you could be selling widgets in the mall. That's a little hard. I mean, you're just going to be like doing a widget in front of a kid's face.
No, do you know what? Can I address that?
Those
things that marketers and salespeople love to throw stones at, like a girl with a good butt on Instagram, or a guy throwing a helicopter up into the air. There is actually all people are doing is walking around looking for value, and value comes in many forms. We don't have to like where it comes from. And so if someone's better looking, I get value from looking at them. And so there are things that there's little stackable things. There's points that people can score in marketing and sales that aren't necessarily like fair. But yeah, the guy throwing widget, like the guy, I'm thinking of the guy that throws the little helicopter up in the air and it comes down. You try not to look at that when you walk through, and it's $5 or $9 or whatever it is. He's demonstrating the value of the thing perfectly. It's just not the same as demonstrating the value of a nutrition coaching plan or a high ticket, insurance program or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff, buddy.
I love this.
We're friends now, dude.
We definitely are.
Yeah, I feel like
I want to have you on again.
Where do you live?
I live in the Dallas, Texas area.
Oh, I'm down there sometimes. I used to go down.
Bro, you get down here. I'm taking you to Nick and Sam's, my man.
I'm down, man. We're gonna make a little tour out to go to Austin. I got a bunch of podcast friends down in Austin, and we got to go to Rogan's new club. And I don't know.
His new club looks dope.
Yeah, and then one of my friends has a podcast studio in Tim Kennedy's new jiu-jitsu school. Shout out to Tim Kennedy and the Sheepdog Response course. But we're gonna go down there and record, and with a couple other people as well.
Nice. That's
we'll
awesome.
Stop in Dallas. Do you know Scott Ramage? He's in Dallas. You got to meet Scott. You'd like Scott. Brotherhood of Fatherhood.
Really?
Yeah, he's great.
That's like connect us. I'd love to meet him.
I'll connect you right after this call.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, if anyone wants to, what's the best place if someone wants to connect with you? They're like, I'm fucking digging Jason's energy.
Yeah, if you will tolerate Facebook, I putting out free content every single day, and I'm committed to just being laser focused on getting better and delivering more value for people that are entrepreneurs and want to make more money. So that's Dynasty Builders is the free group on Facebook. Otherwise, just spearandclover.com. I'm at Jason Skeesick on all the social media stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go join this group. I want to see because I'm joining. I started my group, my coaching group, and that was something I did not do was Facebook groups.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm just now starting it, and I was like, man, I really gotta like get into this Facebook group thing.
Yeah, I'll give you some stuff. I've put a lot of time and effort, and I've had some mentorship there, so I can help you there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I'm just now starting the Facebook group and doing content and lives and stuff like that. So
you're gonna crush. You're great at this.
I try, man. I just put in the dude. I just
No, you
wake
don't.
up every
No,
day
you
and I'm
don't.
like,
This is good. You're natural, man. You're a natural at this. This is easy for you because you're actually curious. Like you're enjoying this, like I am.
yeah, no,
That's the
absolutely.
difference. So many people don't.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy this 100%.
I know. I can tell. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Last question I have
Got
for
it.
all my guests is you have the opportunity to sit with, break bread with, learn from, have a conversation with 3 individuals, anyone in history, alive or deceased. Who are they and why?
Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, it's a good one. That's a really good one. I've heard that one other time, but I do like that one.
Joe Rogan, and probably Ernest Hemingway. I like other authors more, but I think he'd be the best conversation. So I like F. Scott Fitzgerald. I like Ayn Rand. I like a couple other authors, but I think Ernest Hemingway lived it. I think he would be the most fun. Mark Twain. Fuck that. Mark Twain.
Dude! Hot shit! I was thinking Mark Twain as soon as you said Ernest Hemingway. I was like, I would have done Mark Twain.
No, Mark Twain.
I'm not even.
No, you're dead on. Yeah,
bro.
that's exactly right. Yeah,
I am not even kidding you. I was like, I would have done Mark Twain.
Well, I see, but that's the point. So I enjoyed Ernest Hemingway's books more than Mark Twain. I think Mark Twain's the better. Like I'm a F. Scott Fitzgerald guy and an Ayn Rand guy and like Orwell guy. But I don't know about Fitzgerald, but those other two are boring dinner conversation. Yeah, I think Mark Twain.
Dude, Mark Twain would be a fucking awesome conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
he would be an awesome conversation.
Yeah, you're right,
man. We are fucking in sync, bro.
Baby.
Oh, this is great, dude. Jason, you are always welcome on the Be the Difference podcast. I appreciate you coming on board. If you're watching this, I know you got value out of it. So do me a favor, do Jason a favor. Go ahead and share this content with somebody else that can also learn and grow from it, that can expand their mind, that can change their perspective, that can or just like be entertained. It takes 30, 60 seconds to rate, review, subscribe, or share this content, but it means the world to both Jason and I. Make sure you go follow Spear and Clover. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until